Hey there, this is Ash Gravity, and I am coming to you with a weekly astrology forecast for January 25th to 31st, 2021. I'm recording this on January 21st, 2021 in Sedona, Arizona. This is not typically where I am recording my videos from. I actually live in Iowa, but my partner and I are traveling right now on a southwestern road trip with our dog, and it's been a lot of fun. We've been doing a ton of hiking. Sedona is one of our favorite places to come to. It's amazing to be able to just see the stars and do some hiking, and also there's obviously a huge metaphysical community here, so there's always a lot of interesting things that I can find that I can't necessarily find other places. So we've been enjoying that time. In terms of other updates, we are coming up on the last week of January, and a lot of people have been reaching out to me about booking synastry or relationship readings for the month of February, and this is something that I do year round. I'm also offering this February a mini relationship reading, which is a 20-minute recording, not a live reading with me, but a 20-minute recording where I look at the charts of two people and talk about just the basic highlights of what's going on with their relationship and how the transits over the next few months are going to be impacting them as a couple. This is for romantic relationships, obviously, but it can also be a great reading for friends or business partners or even parent and child relationships. I've done readings for all of those different types of relationships in the past. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can find more info about that in the links below this video. And of course, if you enjoy this forecast and you want to get regular updates from me, I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel so that you get notifications every time I post a new video. And also, if you want to get weekly email updates from me, you can subscribe using the links below this video as well. I send a weekly astrology update, which includes the link to this video, my weekly podcast where I sometimes go deeper into different topics related to astrology and the metaphysical, and also sometimes politics. So let's go ahead and get into the week ahead. This is a week of endings and beginnings, and the hopes and wishes and fears that arise in those bigger transitions. We have a full moon in Leo in the latter half of the week when a lot of the big astrology of the week is taking place, and we also have a Mercury retrograde happening at the end of this week that will be moving through the next couple of months. On January 25th, the moon will be in Cancer, and it is the day of the moon. So this is probably going to be a somewhat sensitive, emotional kind of day. And in addition to that, the sun in Aquarius will be sextile to Chiron in Aries. So this is a day of healing or conversations about healing, and we need to be emotionally aware of what other people are experiencing, what they're feeling too. So as we observe the ways in which #healing in progress occurs, there's a definite sense of, well, that was then and this is now. And one of the things that we want to be aware of is that while there is a huge transition happening, of course, in the United States, with the transition and leadership and power from Donald Trump to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, there's still a lot of cleaning up that needs to happen, and that's going to be underway in a big way in the coming weeks and months, and honestly for the years ahead. So this is a long-term journey, and while we want to be focused on that was then, this is now, we're trying to move into a more hopeful time, we also want to be aware of all of the work that still needs to be done. On Tuesday, January 26th, we have a square between the Sun and Uranus, and the North Node will also be square to Neptune. So there's an impulse to create a new direction, but we're not sure if it's the right way to go, perhaps. And we want to be happy and hopeful about what the road ahead looks like, but there's also some balance that has to come into play here. It can't all just be like wishes and positive thinking, even though that might be the overall kind of feeling of the day is wishes fulfilled. We also might see some surprises in terms of leadership or things related to finance and money. So the overarching kind of theme of the day is exploring our wishes and hopes for the future and exploring possibilities for the future, but not necessarily taking direct action on these days. It's more about the imagination in terms of what the future might look like. And we might be more open and willing to entertain possibilities and entertain potential than we have over the past year. And it's okay to indulge in those feelings over the course of this day. On Wednesday, though, January 27th, the moon will enter Leo. And as the moon enters Leo, it enters into an opposition with Saturn in Aquarius. So this is where we might feel some push to go into a room, close the door, and get our work done. Other people and the internet and everything could just be kind of distracting us. And it could be, like frustrating. We don't want to have distractions in our way. It feels like they're roadblocks or like they are keeping us from meeting our potential. So this might be a day when you are feeling more like internally focused. You want to just go and get your own work done and not have to worry about other people. So we have a full moon in Leo on Thursday, January 28th, and it's exact around 1:16 p.m. Central Time. I talked in my last weekly forecast about the square that we have between Mars and Uranus in Taurus and Saturn and Jupiter in Aquarius, and how these are fixed signs. So it's like fixed energy that doesn't necessarily want to move. And at the full moon, the moon will also be in a fixed sign, Leo. So we have a square happening between fixed fire, fixed earth, and fixed air. And some of the things that this could bring up is that we're coming to bring something to completion. We're coming to some kind of ending. But with all of the fixed energy, we might not really be wanting to move forward. And so there's some tension that is arising here in terms of like what we have available to us for material resources, also the way that we're thinking about things and trying to grapple with what the future actually holds and what the future actually looks like, and just how we're feeling in terms of like how confident we're feeling in moving forward with something in our life, or how confident we're feeling in whether or not it's time to bring something to a completion point or an ending. So that's part of the energy that's happening with this full moon in Leo. Another thing that's happening on this same day is that Venus and Pluto are going to be in conjunction to each other. And this could bring up some power dynamics in relationships, power struggles maybe even in relationships, and using shame or like tactics that are trying to put somebody into a lower position as part of the strategy for how to gain power and control. And one of the things that this brings up to me, or for me, is how we are in a time where we're trying to expand the way that we think about things, expand our options for moving forward, and think about like, what does the future actually hold? And we're trying to maintain some hope and optimism for some people for the first time that they've really been able to access any kind of hope and optimism for the last few years, and definitely for about the last year. With Venus conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, we could also experience drama in relationships, particularly in relationship to work or politics. There's this struggle between wanting to be hopeful, and the sun will be also in conjunction with Jupiter exactly on this day. So there's this like hopeful optimism that's trying to reign over everything, but then there's also the material reality and the limitations that we're facing as a collective. It's a time where there is a focus on healing what has been wounded, healing what has been lost, in order to bolster and build up that confidence to move forward. And on this full moon, there is that like tension point of making that transition. And there's that same opposition between the moon in Leo and Saturn in Aquarius that I mentioned about on the previous day, where there's this push kind of inward, or this push to get our own work done and be responsible for ourselves as we are navigating how to move forward in this transition. I would say we might feel a little disjointed with the people around us in terms of like how we think the future should look. Then on Saturday, January 30th, the moon will enter Virgo, which is a Mercury ruled sign. And interestingly, we also have Mercury stationing retrograde on this day at 26 degrees Aquarius. So Mercury is going to remain retrograde until February 20th. And it entered its pre-retrograde shadow, where we kind of start to already feel some of the Mercury retrograde experiences for some folks on around January 15th. And it won't exit its post-retrograde shadow, bringing the whole cycle to completion until about March 12th. So we have quite a long period of time, about 2 months of this Mercury retrograde period. So when Mercury stations retrograde, it's usually a period of reflection and rethinking things. And so obviously with the transition in power, one of the things that comes to mind for me with this is that the process of cleaning up and revaluation begins during the Mercury retrograde period. And I would say even around that January 15th time, that was when we really started to hear more about like what Joe Biden's plans were for how he was going to navigate the presidency. And I'm recording this one day after the inauguration has happened. I think not even 24 hours after the inauguration has happened. And we're already seeing all of these rollbacks of we're rejoining, these different agreements and all of these kinds of things. So I think we're going to see more of that over the coming weeks. I also think that with Mercury retrograde in Aquarius, we will probably experience challenges in relationship to our computers, technology, especially because this Mercury retrograde is in that square with Uranus and Mars and Taurus, and Uranus is also related to technology and the internet. So we could see some really big things happening in relationship to our own personal technology, but also we could see some big things coming up in relationship to the conversations that are happening around Facebook and monopoly in technology. And another thing that I am not super well versed in, but I have seen a lot of people talking about, is cryptocurrency and how that could be playing a really big role in this Mercury retrograde period, especially with the square from Mars and Uranus and Taurus. With the moon in Virgo over the course of the weekend and Mercury in its stationing retrograde period, we could be definitely feeling mind fog, mind fuzz, like, why can't I just focus? Why can't I get my brain to work? Honestly, when I record these forecasts, I kind of get the sense that I'm feeling into the energy of the astrology that I'm talking about. And I've had so many things happen over the course of recording this video, miscommunications with people around like what time we were supposed to meet today and all of this kind of stuff. So I sense that over the course of the weekend, we're going to be feeling some of that energy. And so don't be too hard on yourself, especially with the moon in Virgo. You could be feeling ultra perfectionist, and it's not really in service to anybody to be so hard on yourself. Mistakes happen, miscommunications happen, technology issues happen for sure. And we're just going to have to be feeling into all of that liminal, how to deal with liminal time, how to deal with unexpected changes in relationship to time that we got really well versed in over the course of the last year. So be compassionate with yourself. And of course, if you enjoyed this forecast, please hit the subscribe button so that you get notifications for when I post new videos. And I would love to see you on my email newsletter and over on Instagram at @ashgravity. I'd love to meet you, talk with you, consult with you in 2021, and I hope you have an awesome week.